This is problem 1 of 8GA5, where we're going to use informal arguments to establish facts about, in this case, angles created when parallel lines are intersected by a transversal. Now remember, if you've got two lines that are parallel, and this is, we've got line 1 and line 2 that are parallel. See these little arrows? That tells you they're parallel. And L3 is a transversal. That's a line that intersects those two parallel lines. Which statements are true? So they want us to talk about the angles that are here. I want to do a quick review. I want to remind you that any time you have one intersection point, that you have what are called vertical angles. Vertical angles are across from each other, and they will be congruent. This is one set of vertical angles. This is a second set of vertical angles. So vertical angles are congruent. So I know angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent because I can ignore this intersection down here completely and see 1 and 3 are congruent. They're vertical angles. 2 and 4 are congruent because they're vertical angles. But what other angles might be congruent? If I took this intersection and translated it down here, wouldn't angle 1 and 4 be right on top of each other? Wouldn't angle 2 and 3 be right on top of each other? Those would be corresponding angles. If I took this intersection and slid it down and turned it around, made sure it went through a rotation, then angle 3 and angle 4 would be on top of each other, and those would be congruent angles. Angle 3 and angle 4 are between the two parallel lines, so they are interior angles. They're on alternate sides of the transversal, so angle 3 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles. Those two would be congruent. So let's look and see what they ask. 1 and 4, would 1 and 4 be congruent? Yes, measure of angle 1 and measure of angle 4 would be congruent because those are corresponding angles. They're in the corresponding location. They're in the same relative location, the upper left corner. Measure of angle 1 is 90 degrees. There's nothing to tell me that's the case. Measure of angle 2 plus measure of angle 3 is 180. Well, let's look. 2 and 3. No, those are congruent. Those are corresponding angles. Nothing to say they add up to 180. Measure of angle 2 and measure of angle 4 add up to 180. No, those are congruent. If they were both 90-degree angles, they'd add up to 180, but there's nothing to tell me for sure that's true here. The only thing we've got is that 1 and 4 are congruent because they are corresponding.